Alright, what is up boys and girls? Welcome back to another video, just taking a look at Vchain on our daily time frame here for another daily update on the channel. Before we begin, please do go down below and sign up to BITUNIX. They're giving you a 30% bonus if you deposit and trade on their platform. Deposit $1,000 and trade to receive a $300 bonus instantly. Really good way to get involved in these markets. As you can see, we've got a lot to talk about on this chart, so let's take a look at what's going on. You can see Vchain here specifically still stuck under this big daily fair value gap here, as you can quite clearly tell. Looking like we're starting to coil up a little bit here, trying to figure out which direction we're potentially going to be going. If I had to guess, I would say after sweeping out so much liquidity to the downside, we've basically come down here on Vchain's chart and swept out this bear market range low. You can see we were in a bit of a range for the bear market for a while. Vchain starting to look bullish. As you can see, we've got the Trump pump. We come down into the tariff dump area at the start of the year. Tariffs obviously dumping down Ethereum like this. And then since then, Ethereum recovered back to an all-time high. Meanwhile, we've got altcoins absolutely stagnating and not knowing what to do, really. Coming down into a very obvious range here for Vchain. Looking like it's pretty weak, to be honest. And then we obviously come into, over the summer, this even tighter coil of a range for Vchain here. Started to look like we were losing market structure again to the downside, and then obviously that huge liquidation manipulation that we saw to the downside, where with this massive... this has got to be a 50 or 60% candle to the downside, 55, 56% before recovering back up inside the bear market range low, closing back above here, looking pretty bullish, and then since then bouncing back up, rejecting out of this daily fair value gap still here, as you can see, and really just trying to figure out where to go next. As always, we're pretty much just following what Bitcoin's doing. You can see here a little bit of a relief rally, people buying back in after such an immense drop, and then we kind of reached the point where everyone's like, okay, we're probably going to have a little bit of a consolidation and a chill. I would say, what are we looking at here? Let me take a look at my Fibonacci levels. We've probably got some interesting fib levels that we can talk about. I would say probably there's going to be a fib level that's going to be very interesting in this area. I would say right now Vchain very basically just following what Bitcoin's doing, to be honest. You can see Bitcoin today. Bitcoin very interesting actually, and I'm actually in a trade for Bitcoin right now in a long position, because if you take a look at what's happened here, we've got a pretty obvious area of liquidity, a very obvious level. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 touches on this trend line. I knew when we saw this momentum to the downside here that we were going to go and sweep all of this out. We swept all the way down and currently bouncing out of this really obvious daily fair value gap down here that we never came down and readdressed or rebalanced. You can see we came down, tapped into this, got a really big rejection on Friday, and then over the weekend we've been slowly starting to trickle back up from this area, as you can see, and currently so far today looking like we want to come back up and close above this daily fair value gap, which was above here. And I said in a previous video, if we do come up and close above this, we're going to be bullish for Bitcoin, which will probably mean that Vchain will also get a nice little relief rally. If Bitcoin can come up here, we'll probably see Vchain do something like this and trickle back up into this fair value gap here and try and move back to the upside. As always, things are always just dependent on what Bitcoin's doing. And specifically, let me just get a fresh Bitcoin chart here, because this one is clearly a bit messy with all of my analysis. I'm actually going to get a different... I've been thinking about this for a little while. I'm going to get a different chart for Bitcoin. I'm just going to have this as my trading chart so you can see the trades that I've been taking. But you can see my methodology behind this trade for Bitcoin was pretty interesting, I thought. I've obviously come down, bounced out of this fair value gap here. Really good rejection of this, and you can see my condition for going bullish again was this fair value gap here on the way down. I think if we start reversing fair value gaps back to the upside after sweeping out liquidity like this, we're in a bull market obviously, so we're expecting longs all the time. You can see we've come down, got a really good rejection out of this area. 3 big daily green candles in a row so far, at least. And then if you come down to the 4 hour, my condition for taking a long position was this 4 hour fair value gap here. You can see over the weekend we came down, we came back into this, we were rejecting for a while, and if you look at these big 4 hour fair value gap areas have all been rejected on the way down. So if you start breaking these back to the upside, I think we're going to start flipping market structure. And you can see we came and closed above this, which is where I took my position. I was just targeting a 1-for-1 initially, as you can see, where I'll probably just go break even, which is what I've done now. But you can see we came and closed above this fair value gap here. I've got a few good conditions here in my opinion for taking a position. My thesis is basically that we've come down, we've tapped into this fair value gap, we're in a bull market, and we're also, if you look how well these fair value gaps have previously been respected, on the 4 hour and on the daily. I think if we start inversing fair value gaps back to the upside, it's pretty obvious that we're probably going to flip market structure. We come up, we close above, so I enter my long position here. My stop loss is if we come back down below this fair value gap, I'll probably cut the trade. And you can see here over the course of the night, because I took this position, when did I take this position? It was yesterday, or was it? Is this last night? I really can't tell. But anyway, I think I got into this position yesterday, knowing that this was gonna break to the upside. I think this was yesterday afternoon. Yeah, look, Sunday, you can see we closed above 1 p.m. yesterday, which is when I got in, when I got my alert that we were closing above. You can see here we came up, we actually rejected out of that daily a few times on the 4 hour, got a reversal, but you can see really good back test of this 4 hour break, and then a big green candle here, signaling to me that so far so good. The trade's obviously come up. If you just take a 1-for-1 on this trade, you would have been in profit. You could just take your profit here. I'm personally looking for a bit more upside, because I do feel like this could potentially be the start of a big reversal. So I've actually just gone break even on this position like this, and now it's basically a free trade however far it goes. I'm just going to ride it out and see how far we can get. Looking like so far so good. We could potentially break this big daily fair value gap, which would give me extra confirmation we're going to continue up. My reason for holding this trade is that I feel like we've got some pretty obvious liquidity above to be targeting here. You can see this break of this trend line here was also in confluence with us breaking this fair value gap, kind of signaling to me that we could start doing this. And this was very, very similar to a trade that I took recently as well. You can see here, very, very similar position that we were in. We were coming down, we've got this obvious trend line before. Very, very obvious. We come up, we break the fair value gap and the trend line here. Took my position on this one previously as well. You can see stop loss would have been below here. And then I was targeting 1-for-1. We came up and smacked that in the space of the next few days. And then I was targeting this high here. Didn't know how far we'd go. Took half my position off here and then the rest of the position off at the all-time high. Really, really good trade. And now we're looking like we're in a fairly similar area here, but with even more confluence with this big, lovely liquidity sweep bouncing out of that daily. Overall, this trade looks good. And I would say that Vchain hopefully will profit from some upside from Bitcoin potentially moving up here. A lot of confluences to suggest that Bitcoin can pump. Obviously, we've got CPI this week though as well, so be careful because we could have some good volatility in the traditional markets, which will obviously affect Bitcoin as well. But right now, Vchain just following Bitcoin, and we're going to wait and see what happens next. As always, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Please do like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Check back every day for some daily updates and get some free money in the description below. Cheers.